Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to WD18, the Watford fan channel. Welcome to another live phone-in show with myself and Sam Ucko. We're going to be taking your calls if you'd like to get involved in today's show. It's going to be centered around a bit of transfer talk. We haven't done the transfer video this season. Obviously, it is coming up to the start of this season, which has come around really, really quickly. Sam, first off, mate, how's your week been? How's life been following Watford? I saw you mentioned a little bit of a meltdown today about the pre-season friendly. Do you want to maybe just touch on that firstly?
Yeah, First off, it's been a good couple of weeks. Managed to get away for a week as well, which is always nice. Clear the head a bit. Elton John tomorrow night as well at Vicarage Road, which I'm really looking forward to. Should be a top night. So obviously Watford today played their first pre-season game. We hosted Cambridge at London Colney, Watford training ground in a behind closed doors friendly. Obviously expect with pre-season you're gonna have quite a few changes at half time and sort of rolling subs, I think, that you see in Sunday League pretty much. And we lost 3-1, going 3-0 down. I think it was James Morris who scored for Watford, the left back. I'm not too sure. Yeah. And fans weren't too happy with that. It's not to justify the result. Understandably, we shouldn't be losing to Cambridge or, being 3-0 down to Cambridge. But, in my head, I think pre-season really doesn't say anything about, what the season's going to hold. I think particularly the first one is going to be about getting fitness in, about Rob Edwards, really cementing his playing style on the players. He's only had, 10 days, 2 weeks with these players as well. So it's about, really introducing that to game situations. And I think it's just about players sort of finding their touch as well. Now, you can argue as well that, Cambridge are in the same situation as well. I think it is slightly different that there is sort of still that, players are unsure whether they're going to be here next season, whether they're going to have a role in Edwards' side, and perhaps that did have an impact on it. But, I'm really not worried. And I touched on a couple of years ago, we beat Tottenham 2-1 in pre-season, and people were really excited after that. And yes, we got promoted, but that game didn't live up to what everyone, following that game, the season didn't live up to what everyone thought it would be. So it doesn't really say much, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes there could be an overreaction both ways with those sort of games. Like if you remember the Spurs game at the start of the 2021 season when we got promoted under Vic, we all thought, we started the season with Vic, got promoted with Xisco in the end. But at the start of the season, everyone was like, guys, Stupinian looks great. Keena, Luis Suarez, I think, featured that day. Like there were so many, Stupinian, like loads of new players featured, and we were all thinking, wow, we look really, really good, which we did. But then ultimately, and, it can swing the other way. We didn't really see those performances under Ivic in terms of that style of play because ultimately two players went. And, I doubt, there won't be a game this season where we play three different lineups pretty much in one game. So if anything, and to flip a positive on it, I think it's great that Rob can basically look at the team and go, this is who I think is really good. These are the players I don't rate. It gives him a bit of clarity, I think, about what idea he wants to have with this Watford squad. So, I'm not reading too much into it. I know people obviously will. That's just part and parcel of football. Sam, you know what? There was another bit of news today, and we'll touch on it before we take a couple of calls. We've got a couple of people waiting in the chat, and the link is in the chat, by the way. And I'll just put it in one more time if you'd like to get involved. We're going to be taking your calls. So we're going to just talk about what you've made of this pre-season so far, particularly maybe the lack of transfer activity coming in, because the kind of feelings we're hearing from Rob Edwards, Sam, and with Andrew French, has done a great job this summer, kind of getting those articles out, is that he wasn't expecting major changes this summer. So what have you made of that? What have you made of the comments, particularly from Rob, and the feeling that he's not content, but he's relatively happy with this squad at the moment?
Look, I think first of all, what you have to bear in mind is that what we hear from Rob Edwards, while, on the whole, it has been really refreshing and honest, I don't think he's ever going to tell us what he truly thinks. I think that's just the nature of football. You never truly hear what a manager thinks. And that, without doubt, a place he's looking at thinking, I don't want him, and him, and I want to keep him, and him. Do you know what? With the loan players coming back, I personally think this team needs 4 starting players. 4 players who are going to come in and start. And obviously a couple of backups as well. And in my eyes, that's not really a big, host of changes. It's not really a big turnover in the squad like we've seen in previous years. So I do agree with Rob in that. What I've sort of urged for on social media and when speaking on the channel is patience. I think, particularly towards the start of the window, I think fans, we don't want to rush into, any signings that we might regret later on. and we want to sort of measure it up well. And I think perhaps that's what's taking so long, as well as we have to get a couple out the door as well. But I think as well as patience, you can be concerned as well. And towards the start this week, I was slightly concerned. I was thinking, there are teams around us making moves, particularly the likes of Middlesbrough and Swansea, making really good moves in the window, and Burnley as well. So I think you can be both patient and concerned, and I think that's where I am. I would like to see sort of signings come in as soon as possible, but I also don't want to rush into anything.
I guess the question is, Sam, what from my from my perspective, I'm not concerned at the minute personally. I think that we only see so much as supporters anyway, so I think there's probably stuff going on behind the scenes about the talks they want to get in. There might be a player that they missed out on, etc. I also think it's a really big case of this Watford team that we have to move players on before we can bring players in. We still have yet to get rid of two of our main assets in Sarr and Dennis. Sissoko's only just gone throughout the door, and we'll touch a bit on that later in the show. Obviously, Culshaw's made a moves in Canagle, etc. So, there's movement going out the window. I think from my perspective, I think it might be a case of we'll have to see a couple of more players go before we get them in. And the question I wanted to throw over to you, Sam, was your concern. Is it more based on what other teams are doing? Let's just say hypothetically that none of the other teams are doing anything. Would you still have that concern with this team? Or is it just purely based on what other teams are doing at the moment?
I think it's a bit of both. It's a good point you raise. I think the reason why I'd say I am slightly concerned is because, we've got a manager coming in now who wants to play this new system, which isn't going to be too familiar with the players, a big turnaround in players as well this summer. And I think we're going to need to have as much time as possible for players to bed in there, and really get ready for Rob Edwards' system and have a proper pre-season as well. I think that's where the concern comes from in terms of what we're doing. But I think equally, when you look at the signings that Burnley are making, and as I say, Middlesbrough, Swansea, I think that's equally where the concern comes in as well. Sort of seeing teams that, should be around us towards the end of the season, the moves that they're making, I think, it's not worrying. And as I say, I still am being patient, but it's concerning that there are clubs who seem to be one step ahead of us, perhaps in the window. That's what it looks like from the outside, at least.
Sure. We'll bring someone in. I've seen we've got two waiting. First of all, we're just going to head over to Glee, if you can hear us. I think he's in his car if he's loading up. Sam, I don't know if you can see Glee. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Glee, can you hear us? No. Okay, we'll come back to him. We'll bring in another legend, fan of the channel. Hold it for
Yes.
Good
Yes,
stuff.
hello, boys.
How's it going, buddy? You okay?
Yeah, not bad. How are you?
You know what? I'm very well, mate. Thank you very much. I wanted to ask you, I don't know if you heard the top of the show. We were just talking about our transfer activity so far. What have you made of it with the players that have gone out, but also the signing today with Bayo? What's your feeling at the moment with our transfer window?
Well, I think I'm quite happy to wait, just purely because I'd much rather get the right players and people in before, instead of panic buy and not know what we're getting out of someone. So I think I'd much rather I'd wait first before we make our move in the market, because there are players out there that can fit our system who are still available. So I wouldn't panic as of yet.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, mate. I think also the fact that, from what we've heard, right, Rob's going to get a bit more influence over the signings and stuff. And, that's pretty rare for a Watford manager under the Pozzos, that they're going to have a bit more buy-in to what players come in. And Sam, I don't know about you, but I'm happy to be a bit more patient if I know that Rob's going to influence over the players that come in, rather than, as said, like panic buy, and then Rob stuck with a player that he didn't want to hear in the first place, which did happen with Ivic, if we cast our mind back to the start of the season. Look, Glenn Murray, perfect example from the start of our last championship season.
Yeah, and I think the signing today, I can't remember his first name, but Bayo.
Vakoun.
Yeah, Vakoun Bayo, thank you for that. Yeah. I mean, first of all, are you happy with the signing? And also, I think for me, what it really shows is that Edwards is having an influence over the signings, because it looks like a player that Edwards will need up front with that physical presence. So are you happy with the signing?
Yeah, but I do think that this shows sort of the way that Rob wants to play. I think because we don't have sort of a physical presence, and obviously we saw us being linked with players like Benicophobe as well, but obviously he's gone to Millwall now. So I think we would have much rather got Benican, because obviously Rob knows him. But it's still a good signing, and obviously he's got a lot of experience in different countries, and I think hopefully he'll fire us back to the Premier League.
Do you know? It's a great point, Sam. I was having a look at through Vakoun of Bayo's stats today, and I think since the 18-19 season, he's registered 45 non-penalty goals. I saw a tweet from Orns, and then someone mentioned that actually might have been him again, that 19 of which came from his head. So I think, as mentioned, if we can. Very, very sort of Sunday league, but if we get it in the mixer and get it in the 18-yard box a lot, I guess it does give us another option, right? Because I think you look at the other attacking options, I don't think we had a player who was really that much of a threat in the air, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. It's, I think what's really good is that it offers a plan A and a plan B. I think in games where you're going to have to be more physical in the Championship, which there are a lot of them, I'm sure we can name them off the top of our heads now, but I think he offers a really good plan A in terms of getting physical with the other defenders, and he also offers a plan B where, say, we're chasing a goal, get another man into the box. Just a quick question for you as well, mate. How many goals do you think he'll score this season, if you had to predict it?
I mean, he hasn't played in England before, and I think personally we've missed out on two things. I think Kane Wilson to Bristol City, we really should have looked at Kane. And I think the biggest departure so far of the summer is Philip Zinckernagel, because he provided that creativity. And you boys had interviewed him before, and he seemed like a really good guy in your interview and that. But I think he's a big loss. But I think he'll score around 12 goals next year. But it all depends on how we play and if it suits him.
Sorry, mate. I remember you came on the last show and I've just forgot your name. What was it again, bud?
Oh, I'm Noah.
Noah, apologies. That's my bad. I remember you from the last phoning, or it was the phoning before.
Yeah,
Noah,
yeah.
what I wanted to ask you, you mentioned Zinckernagel there.
Yeah.
So what signings, we've just brought in a striker today, which positions do you think we need to bring in this summer before the start of the season for you as a fan, Noah, to feel confident that we can do well this season?
For me, it all depends on the departures. I'd much rather wait for the departures first to see which happens, to see what happens first with the departures, and then we can build our squad from there. But for now, okay. I think we need another midfielder due to letting Sissoko go to FC Nantes in France.
Yeah, Sam, we'll touch on that later on the show, but Noah made a great point about Zinckernagel, because as he said, when we spoke to him, we really wanted him to do well, and it didn't really work out for whatever reason. He came and did a job in that promotion season, wasn't really going to get a look in from Xisco when it went to the Premier League for whatever reason. Noah's bang on. Do you know what? It's a double-edged sword, though, isn't it? Because whilst I think he would have been a really valuable asset, not only the fact that he's a brilliant player, but for the level, but the fact that he's got 2 promotions back to back. Also, the fact that, do you want to keep a player that doesn't want to be here? I think we knew that Zinckernagel probably didn't want another season in the Championship after the 2 promotions. Is that fair?
Yeah, he'll be playing European football as well, I imagine. Champions League, Europa League, I'm not too sure. So, I mean, I don't blame him for going. And I think this is, particularly come after the cup final, I think one of the problems that Watford had was keeping players who didn't want to be there for too long and subsequently got relegated the next season. So I think, what's a real change of the philosophy at the club is letting go of players when it is the right time. And I think it probably was the right time for Zinkernagel to move on. He's a player who got promoted twice, and if he's not getting his chance in the Premier League or at the highest level, then really what's the point in football? So, wish him all the best, and I'm sure he'll smash it at Olympiacos.
No, before you go, we had a comment here from Super Nicholas 1 who says holding on to Searauta, Loser and Kamara will be just as key. So when you look at the Watford squad at the minute, Noah, which players do you think we need to be building this team around? Who do you think Rob will look to build the team around, particularly that spine as well?
I am not sure, but one thing I will say is Hassan Kamara looks to be heading to Lyon after then missing out on Tyrell Malacia, who looks to be going to Man United now. So I don't think he'll be here next year if that deal might go through. So we might need to get another left back in. So I'm not sure about him. I totally agree with Searauta. I think Loser's basically a swap deal because we signed him last summer and Sissoko's gone back to his old club Nantes. But I think he's key as well. So I think very good suggestions. And Kamara seems to be going to Lyon.
Do you know what? We'll have to keep an eye on that one, Noah, because it's always changing, is it, with the transfer window? So we'll see what happens with Kamara. Do you know what? No, we're going to have to let you go just because we've got a couple of people waiting. But, mate, when we next have a show, make sure you come on again and we'll get you on because it's an absolute pleasure having you on, mate. And you speak so much sense. But have a lovely rest of your Saturday evening, mate, and we'll speak to you soon.
You too, lads. Cheers for having me.
Yeah, have a good one. See ya. Bye-bye. Oh, what a guy. Love Noah.
Man. What a man. It'll be interesting, though, just before we get something else on, just a couple of things I thought of. First of all, it seems that Lyon's interest in Kamara, I don't think they're following through with it. It looks like Kamara will be staying for now. And I just had another thought just in terms of moving perhaps Emmanuel Dennis on. I'm just wondering now, because it looks like Everton will be the ones to get Emmanuel Dennis, with Richarlison now out the door at Tottenham, where Watford have also received a little fee for that. I do think now we're going to see Everton pushing with that money now to get Emmanuel Dennis in. Yeah,
that's definitely one to keep an eye on. I think that looks... I mean, I would be surprised if he didn't go there. The only other one that I could see is him going to West Ham, but I think Sarr's probably going to go to West Ham and Dennis to Everton. Sam, one player that, before we get our next call, the one player that surprised me in the pre-season photos today was Adam Messina. I got the impression towards the end of last season that he was going to be making a move back to Italy or making a move to another club. And even then, I think at the end of last season, correct me if I'm wrong, he put an Instagram message out implying that he was kind of saying goodbye to Watford. So, do you think he probably hasn't received many offers? Because ultimately, I think if there was one, right, he would be on the move, unless Rob really rates him.
Yeah, I think so. I think the appeal with Messina would be that he can probably fill in at left centre back as well in that back five. Back three, back five. Look, with the new sort of rule of 11 that Cristiano Giuretta explained on that club statement when Cucho Hernandez moved on, I think it's unlikely that we keep both Adam Messina and Ken Sema. I personally think one of them will move on to Udinese. It's the only place I can really see them going, or back to Italy. But I don't think we'll keep both of them because I think what they can both do is cover that left-hand side. And they're both foreign as well, so it takes up a place in the non-homegrown category. If I had to pick one, it'll be interesting to see what people say. I'd probably choose Adam Messina over Ken Sema.
Yeah, interesting. I think Adam Messina is probably more versatile, particularly if you're looking like in terms of value to the squad. And I Ken was great when we went up, but I think he had that injury, didn't he? And he just hasn't really been the same anyway. But yeah, from what I don't know about Ken, but from what I've read about Messina, I know he's like very highly rated in the squad. When they always mention like certain personalities that everyone gets along with. Messina's definitely one of those. Do you know what? We'll go on to our next caller. We've got Stefan waiting in the wings. Stefan, can you hear us, mate?
Yeah, you're all right.
Yeah, good, mate. Thanks so much for coming on. First off, I don't know if you heard like the start of the show, but we were kind of talking about the transfer business so far this summer. What have you made of it as a Watford fan? Have you thought would you have liked to be more activity, or are you kind of trusting Rob and the board to get it right this summer?
I mean, I'm seeing a lot of youth coming into pre-season training and stuff, but I mean, with the signings, I feel we're a bit slow. We need to kind of catch up with some other teams. We made one signing, but we've already got João Pedro in that position. I feel maybe we could mop up defensively or in the midfield, get rid of Gosling or someone who hasn't had much game time. He's kind of older. I feel like now in the Championship, we need to have some younger players going in. And, as long as we give our academy a chance, I feel like we're doing all right so far.
Yeah. Do you think it's about maybe like striking that balance between, I know you mentioned Gosling there, is it for you about striking a bit of a balance between the younger players and the older players? Because I guess it would be quite difficult just to go like completely like academy and young players.
Yeah. I get what you mean, but I think it is good we're getting more young people in, because I mean the Premiership, you do want experience and stuff, but now we're down into the Championship, and I feel like it'd be a bit easier. We can start giving younger players more play time and stuff like that. So I feel like I'm gonna enjoy seeing that. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, do you know what, Stefan? What I wanted to ask you was, when you look at the squad at the minute, where do you think this? And it's quite tough to say, but where do you think, if you look like on paper, where do you think this team would finish in the league? Because I've seen some people say that we're going to be pushing for promotion. I've seen other fans say we're going to finish mid-table. I'm kind of on the edge that I think we'd finish between about 6th and 9th, personally, with the squad we've got at the minute. But what do you think? Where do you think we'd finish when you look at that squad on paper?
I'm thinking around 5th.
Okay.
I mean, we've seen from the results of pre-season games there. I mean, losing to Coventry, obviously, not the best start. I know it's pre-season, but I just don't feel so confident. I mean, if it all plays out with the opposers, getting new managers in, I think it kind of plays out with them. If we get more managers in, well, it'll happen like last season. Score will come unstable and stuff. Too much change. I think if we stick with Rob Edwards, we could be pushing for 5th. But I don't think we will win or come 2nd. I think we might have a chance in the playoffs, but I'm not too sure of that.
Do you think it would benefit this Watford side perhaps having a couple of years in the Championship? Obviously, football's all about winning the trophies, and no one will be complaining if we win the league or get promoted next season. We'd all be buzzing. But in terms of the long term for this squad and for Rob Edwards, do you think perhaps staying in the Championship for a couple of years, rebuilding, getting a good squad together, do you think that could benefit this Watford side?
Yeah, massively. It will help a lot. I feel like, we're going up, we're getting a bit rushed. We do need to take our time with this stuff and staying down, finding where we play, sticking with a new manager, getting the players good play time, letting everyone play. I feel like that's important. I think we'll kind of find our place in the Championship. And after a couple of years playing there, I feel like then we might, have the strength to go up and, start fresh like we did years ago.
Love it. I tell you what, Stefan, before you go, mate, you've been brilliant. I just wanted to ask you, which players, or what positions more accurately, do you think we need to bring in before the first game of the season on July the 30th for you to look at the squad and go, you know what, this is a really decent Championship squad?
New midfielder. We need someone to partner with Imran Louza, in my opinion. This is someone preferably young. I know we've got some cameo players, but I do want to buy someone 25, 26. I think that'd be good, because with Sissoko leaving, someone to kind of fill in this role would be good.
Just last question as well. The question I asked Noah as well, I'll ask everyone when they come on today. How many goals do you think Bayo will score next season? So we had 12 from Noah. What are you going with?
I'm going with 14.
14.
Oh, big.
14 and 12. Big moves.
I don't know. I feel like we could be good attacking me, but yeah.
Love it. Stefan, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thanks so much for coming on, mate, and have a good evening.
All right, see ya. Bye.
Nice one. Oh, mate, some bold shouts coming in. Some bold shouts from Bayo. I love it. Absolutely love it. Sam, look, we'll touch a little bit on that, on Vakoun of Bayo signing for Watford. He signed a 5-year deal. I think we've got to touch on it, though. It's kind of the elephant in the room. This is another deal through the Moji buyout pathway, if we want to call it that. If you didn't know, Moji buyout's an agent who's kind of got close links to Watford's ownership. He's been the negotiator in a lot of transfers between maybe about 2015, I'd like to say, Sam, onwards.
Yeah.
From that time period. But there's probably a separate video, to be honest. But if you search up about him as in terms of what he's done in the game, some of it doesn't look great. So some fans are getting quite frustrated about it. And Guy in the comment section saying, personally have concerns until I see a non-Belgian league Moji Bayat connection. Feels we're looking at a limited pool of players, missed out on Scott Twine, etc. So Sam, it's quite a tricky question, but I think we do need to address it. It is another deal negotiated through Moji Bayat, and it's a 5-year deal. Whilst Bayo on paper looks like quite a good signing, does it concern you at all that it is through him again?
Yeah, I think it does. Look, I think what I will say is what I've seen this summer from the Pozzos on the whole has represented some sort of change, particularly in terms of communication. The thing that's worrying is with the transfer strategy, it doesn't look like that's happened so far with Bayo coming in as a Mogi Bayat client. I don't want to write off Bayo because he's a Bayat client, but the track record we've got and the way we keep on going back in for those players doesn't, fill me with the most hope for him personally. Okay. I do agree with you that if we are limiting ourselves to, Udinese players, CSK Sofia, and Mogi Bayat players, I think we are limiting our pool a bit. And I think the next couple of signings to really show a change and a change of intent have to be sort of spreading our wings in a way and showing that we can sign players from League One, League Two, obviously as long as they fit the system. I don't want to buy players for the sake of it. Like, for example, Scott Twine. I think people were calling him for a lot, but I think that would have been a signing for the sake of it. But I do think that, yes, we do need to sort of expand our pool a bit more.
Sure. Will Hunt in the comment section just touch on that last point, Sam. It's nice to see us going for a player that fits the system, Mogi or not. Sorry, I'm saying Mogi or not. We can't keep chopping and changing both managers and players. Strong core needed with a clear set of tactics and identity. And from what we were reading, Sam, through Andrew French, Rob mentioned that he was a player that he's had a look at. He's a player that, you got the impression he wanted him to join, which I think which really helps, I guess. And look, I think that if Rob approves of it, then I fully trust him, to get this transfer right. I guess it was more just kind of the backdrop of this one, because it is, something that was scrutinised last season. I think is it fair to say, Sam, a lot of fans, particularly when it wasn't going pretty well, were kind of looking upstairs and we're looking at some of the activity going on behind the scenes, and Mogi's name popped up quite a bit, and his influence on the Watford transfer activity. I think you can look back all the way to Obiolari, Dodi Lukebakio, who played like 15 minutes against West Ham, if I remember correctly. There was a few players. Sven Kums, do you remember him?
Yeah. Wow.
These names keep. Do you know what? There's probably a sporkle to be had of like Mogi Bayat, like Watford players.
Do you know what? It's not a good look either. But I can't remember which game it was, but he was sat in the director's box next to Girotta, maybe wearing a Watford coat, wearing Watford merchandise, and it almost looked like he was employed by the club. So not the best look. And as I say, I think the next signings, it would be really good if we can sort of spread our wings and expand on our horizons.
Yeah, 100%. Sorry, there was a little bit of a lag on that one. Taking one more comment, and then we've got another person waiting to come on. Opinions on Kwadwo Bar and Joseph Hungbo. Would you like to see them play next season? Would you? What do you like about them as players? Sam, I'll throw this one over to you, mate.
So Kwadwo Bar, I'll be honest, I don't know too much about him. He obviously had a couple of cameos towards the end of last season. I've heard he's absolutely rapid. And he's really quick, he's strong, and he's, quite versatile as well. So it'll be good to see if he gets minutes as well. Joe Hungbo, when we spoke to him 2 years ago now.
Yeah, what a guy.
What a guy, first of all, lovely bloke. Secondly, do you remember how hungry he was in that interview? So desperate to make an impression at Watford. It'll be interesting to see on where he fits into the system because, it's almost like a square peg in a round hole in the Rob Edwards system. And I mean, he spoke in that first training video. There was a video of him speaking to Rob, and people were sort of trying to make out what he was saying and theories coming out. He tried to turn Joe Hungbo into a right wing back. So it'll be interesting to see where Joe plays next season. But I do want both of them to, have a role next season. Because if they're not going to play, then, get them out on loan, because otherwise there's not much point in them just sitting around.
I feel like Barr's a player that's gone under the radar.
Yeah, definitely.
I think people, because he didn't feature last season, and I think it was clear that he probably expected more of a role. Maybe not clear, but I got the impression that he either expected to go out on loan or to play maybe a bit more cup football last season. But I think the fact that he hadn't played, and I remember when we signed him, this is a guy who's like really highly rated from Rochdale, Germany under 19 international. And I think like you look at him as an option, you think he could be someone that Rob really likes. And we've got to remember with the young players in particular, you know, Rob worked in the England youth setup. Obviously, it was under 16s. I think he mentioned to us, and you could tell that he's a guy who speaks so well to young people in general. And I think he genuinely will get the best out of the younger players in the squad. And Sam, it wouldn't surprise me if Bar was definitely an option for next season. You know, maybe not a starter, but someone who could come off the bench. And you know, it's the cliche, but there is 46 games next season, and at some point or another, you're going to need that depth for players to come in and hit the ground running. But just on Hungbo, actually, I mean, I really, you know, just on a personal note, I'd love to see him do well next season, just because he smashed it out on loan in Scotland for Falkirk. Ross County under Malky Mackay. Absolutely smashed it. Got their player of the season, I believe. Like killed it. Like did so well. Genuinely top guy. Like as we can say, even off camera, genuinely lovely guy. But where is he going to fit in the system? Because I think the formation that people are saying, Sam, is that 3-4-1-2.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So either he's going to have to start as a sub, or he's going to be our left wing back.
Yeah, so I mean, it's either one of the wing back roles or maybe in that attacking midfielder role. It's really difficult to say. And as I said, I feel like with Joe Hungbo, it's going to be square peg in round hole, if that makes sense. I think it's very much going to be, I think it's more likely he'll be an impact player. And I think he can do that from what, you know, the glimpses we had from him in the Championship. He's a player who will take the ball, he'll run with it. And particularly at, you know, tiring Championship defences where, you know, they're not perhaps most agile players, they, you know, perhaps pride themselves on physicality a bit more. I think Hungbo could be a really good option off the bench, but yeah, it'll be really interesting to see if he does start, where in the team he fits in.
A couple of comments. Orns TV says no one remembers Sven Coombs because he never played for the club. Obi Alari transfer fee total cost was €82,000 per minute. And there was another comment from Tom Lewis. Appreciate you watching, Tom, always on the streams. Mogi did get us. Mogi Bite did get us. Dennis, losers, Sar, etc. Some hits, but too many misses. I think that's a fair summary. Right, so we've got someone waiting. We're going to bring on Junior. I think he's on the stream. Hello, mate. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Oh, is it lagging?
Oh, hello.
Yeah, I can hear you, mate. I think Jacobs. You're right, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. You?
Yeah, all good. How are you feeling going into pre-season?
Yeah, good, really. I mean, the Culshaw deal I thought was good because, to be honest, if they don't want to stay, I think they need to go. And 10 million was not a bad deal at all, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well that, you know, we're seeing a lot of players sort of moving on this season. We're seeing Culshaw, it's likely Dennis Sar will go, Musa Sissoko. Sort of the players that are still here, which ones do you think we really need to keep hold of? I look at Imran Louza, Kamara, Femenia, João Pedro. Who do you think we really need to keep hold of?
Well, Pedro's the main one. I'd like to see him stay for another couple of years. Kamara, again. Louza, I wouldn't mind to see him go, but it would be nice if he could stay. See if he could push on as a player. Yeah. Couple of others like Alta, because he did well last year in the Championship, 2 years ago in the Championship, and he's a prospect. So yeah.
Sorry, lads, I don't know why I cut out. I was just like literally lagging in real life. Junior, I wanted to ask you which players so we've only brought in one player so far this summer, like one first team player. Who do you? How many more signings do you think we need before the start of next season? Are you kind of content with the squad at the moment, or do you feel we need a couple of additions?
Well, my sister's just
love it.
Well, I think Pyro, who we've been linked with from Swansea, he would be someone I'd want. Armstrong, maybe. if we could, if we could try and get him in. Sorry,
that's all right. Intruder on the pitch.
Yeah. If we could try and get Armstrong in, maybe that'd be good. So forward, someone like that would be nice, and maybe defender. Well, Matty Pollock, I'm excited to see because he's young, hungry.
Yeah.
And so we need to strengthen the midfield is a place where we need to strengthen, definitely.
Do you know what? It's Sam Pollock's name, particularly like the younger fans, I think this year, like he's a name that's definitely stood out. I think that if you remember a couple of years ago, it was Keener, but now it's like Pedro. But the new guy on the block is Pollock. Like, could you see him in that back three starting, or do you think he'll be more of a kind of squad player where Rob puts him in the cup and like lets him get a few minutes before chucking him in there?
Yeah, I think. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go on, either.
Go on, mate.
Now you go.
I was going to say I personally don't know too much about Pollock. I haven't watched too much of him, but from what I'm hearing, I think he said something like, "I've got a burning desire to play for Watford," and anyone who says that is going to get the fans on side straight away. So it'll be interesting to see, whether he starts, whether he's a rotation player. But Jacob, as you say, with the cliche 46 game long season, he will feature at some point if he stays around.
Go on, Junior. I know you're a bit of a fan of him. What do you think?
Well, I think he's a player who'll get his head in the way. He'll do anything to stop the ball going into the back of net. I've seen a couple of clips of him, and I think he's definitely a prospect, and I am excited to see him play. I don't think he'll be thrown in there straight away, but hopefully towards the end of the season, he'll be a main part of our promotion push.
And Junior, one question we've asked quite a few people just before you go, mate, is when you look at the squad at the minute, where do you think we'll finish next season? Because obviously we'll probably ask this question again if you come back on in a couple of weeks' time. But at this moment in time, where do you think this squad's at in terms of when you compare it to the rest of the teams in the league?
Well, it's difficult to say because looking at Burnley, Scott Twine is someone who I really wanted to sign, and it's a shame that we couldn't get hold of him. But I'm looking playoffs definitely, and top two is the place where I would really be hoping.
Oh, I love the positivity. What a man, Junior! You're the man, mate. Thanks so much for coming on.
Junior, last question: How many goals will Bayo score next season? We've had 12, 14.
I want to try to be optimistic, but it's hard with players like Andre Gray and stuff. So I'm going to say 8.
8, okay. So what have we had this show? We've had 8, 12, and 14.
Yep.
Junior's gone playing it a little bit low, but I love it. Absolutely love it. Junior, it's been a pleasure, man. Thanks so much for coming on,
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day, mate. Take care.
Yeah, see ya.
Oh, what a guy. Really interesting. We've got a few comments in the comment section. So Connor, just on Pollock, says Pollock was Cheltenham's player of the season in League One. I think he deserves to be in the conversation from the beginning. I completely agree with you, Connor. Super Nicholas, one true Sierralta and Cabba will be a regular back three, I reckon. I wanted to throw this one over to you, Sam. Unpopular opinion, and let's hear what you think of the chat. I'd let Femenir go, and Ngakia needs game time.
Ooh, it's an interesting one, that one. I think in a 5-back, the thing is, I think Jeremy Ngakia struggles at points, particularly when he's overloaded on one side of the pitch. I think the game that sticks out in my head that he really struggled in was that Newcastle away game. We drew 1-1, and he was at fault for, I think it was St Maximin scored for them, and he really struggled in that game. But I think in the back 5, Kiko is much stronger. And it's just about whether Kiko wants to stay. It's really up in the air whether Femenir does. I thought he would move on and go back to Spain for the end of his career. But I personally think Kiko's stronger in the back 5 than Jeremy Ngakia. But I can see why fans want to give Ngakia a go. He's younger. He seems relatively hungry. And, while I mentioned the weaknesses to his game, he does seem like a good defender overall. So I can see why people want Ngakia involved next season.
Yeah, sure. Do you know what, Sam? Coming to the end of the show, I wanted to kind of talk through a couple of the players that have gone, and we've touched upon them with the 3 guys that have come on today's show. But we'll kick it off with Sissoko, actually. So that was the most recent one that got confirmed, the deal to Nantes, which, interestingly enough, he has a buyback clause in the deal. So if Watford got promoted, I think we can buy him back for a price. the rumoured fee I've seen around €2 million quoted, so about 1.7 million. Obviously, there might be a couple of clauses in there, but the fees around 1.7 million, €2 million. He joins Nantes after obviously only had one season at Watford, being the club captain last year. So I kind of forgot about that, to be honest with you. But an interesting point made by Andrew French again. I know that name's popped up. So if you do want to check his stuff out, make sure you go and head over to his Twitter and stuff. He does some great articles for the Watford Observer. He said that Sissoko turned down other offers to join Nantes because Watford received a transfer fee from the deal, which, I hadn't even really considered. Like, obviously, it's not the biggest of transfer fees, but clearly, fair play to him. He didn't have to do that. He could have been very selfish and, well, not very selfish. He could have been. He's completely entitled to do it. He's completely entitled to pick whatever club he goes to. But he's been very generous there, right, Sam? Like, to actually, do that for the club. And whilst I think at times, well, first off, what have you made of him leaving? Was that the right decision? First off,
yeah, I wasn't too fussed about Sissoko going. To be honest with you, I think a player who on his day was good. But I think too many times he was a passenger. Probably, as I say, it's the right decision for him to move on, bring someone younger in there. In terms of him as a captain, I wasn't too impressed most of the time. I think we spoke about the unity when, we had those stoppages in certain games. And I think he really failed to stand up and sort of get the Watford players in a huddle, perhaps, and get them moving during those stoppages and playing the Chelsea game and the Norwich game. So I'm not too fussed about him moving on, and it's time to bring someone younger in. But fair play for him moving on and getting Watford that fee as well.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's the right move, right? I think we all expected it. I think you summed that up really well, Sam. For me, Sissoko was a guy who, you look at Chelsea at home, when Dennis scored 2, he broke through the lines in midfield, broke up play, laid it off to Dennis, and you thought this is like the Sissoko that, was so really good at Newcastle, played at Spurs to a Champions League final. But then there's also the other side of it where he gives the ball away too sloppily. He plays a ball which is just the wrong pass, and then gets caught in possession. So it's just 1 minute you're thinking, Musa, this is so good, and the next minute you're thinking, Musa, what on earth are you doing?
Yeah, exactly that. He can't shoot as well. I remember there was that game away. That was the game away in Newcastle that I spoke about before with Ngakia, and when he was, I don't know if you remember this, we were 1-0 down and Sissoko went through on goal and he blazed it wide, and just that lack of composure sleeping up in the Villa away as well. And I know our feelings towards Musa, wish him all the best, but yeah, probably the best move for him to move on, the right move.
Moving on to the next one, we'll go PZ7 before we end it with the big transfer, which is Culshaw to Columbus Crew. PZ7 joined Olympiacos, obviously spent last year on loan at Nottingham Forest. Got them promoted to back-to-back promotions for PZ7, but PZ7 no more. He's moved to Greece to play Champions League football. Obviously, Olympiacos have a connection to Nottingham Forest. If you didn't know that already, I think it's pretty well documented that they have a connection with the two owners. Sam, look, I think, as we mentioned, didn't we, at the top of the show, a guy that would have been really valuable in the Championship, but I get the impression Rob said that, he had a decision he was involved in the decision on that one. And I think they probably had the communication of do you want to be here? They've gone no, and they've looked to move on. And I think that's probably the way we need to go, right? Because a lot of the time we haven't done that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think you have to be ruthless as well. There's no point in keeping players because, yes, Zinchenko is a good player, but there's no point in keeping him based on merit of that. We have to have players in there who fit into the system, get regular game time, and also players who actually want to be here. So I don't think Philip Zinchenko really fully ticks any of those boxes. So yeah, it's probably a good move for him to move on. Top guy as well, who we spoke to a couple of years ago, really, really nice guy. Probably one of those interesting footballers that I've spoken to. Genuinely, he's got a whole life outside of football as well, in terms of his, helping his brother out with his fashion business and his whole love for coffee. So wish him all the best, and I'm sure he'll do really well in Greece.
Yeah, good luck to PZ7, top guy. Guess the last big bit of transfer news to finish it on is Cucho Hernandez to Columbus Crew, which was a transfer that you normally only really see on Football Manager or FIFA, a guy playing in the Prem last season. I So part of me, Sam, expected him to move on, but it was one of those transfers where like I expected him to move on, but I was still surprised to see him go, if that makes sense. And I think I was more surprised about the location he went to.
Yeah.
To go to the MLS to be, I think I was reading in an article with ESPN that his first year he's not on a massive wage, but like the year after he becomes he's in like the young player wage cap, I think, for like a year, and then after that, because he's like he can get a lot better pay, etc. I explained that really poorly, but basically it's a great deal for him. I can see from that point of view why he's joined. But is it fair to say, Sam, you were surprised to see him leave in general, or was it just surprised to see him go to the MLS?
I mean, I wasn't surprised to see him go. I expected one of Culshaw or João Pedro to go. I never thought both of them would go. I mean, João's still here, obviously. I did think one of them would go along with Sarr and Dennis. So no surprise with that. I mean, I read somewhere on Twitter that he views football as just a job. So I think it makes perfect sense that he's going to a place where they speak Spanish. He's going to be closer to his family, brilliant pay. So, I imagine he'll be one of the best players in the MLS as well. So, it might look weird in terms of career move where he might not win as much as perhaps his career suggests he should. But, as I say, no hard feelings towards Culshaw. I expected him to move on and, wish him all the best.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, mate. Summed up really, really well. As Ian says, Culshaw will always be remembered for that goal against Villa on the opening day of last season, literally coming off the bench and nailing it top bins. I guess the big question is $10.5 million a good deal for Watford? Brilliant
deal, I think. Think about I don't know how much we bought him for. I'm not sure what the actual fee was. Must have been $1 million, just under $1 million. I'm not 100% sure. But for a player who started, half our games this season, maybe even under half of our games, scored 5-6 goals. I think it's a brilliant bit of business considering we've just been relegated as well. I think we're probably going to get under our valuations for both Sarr and Dennis. We'll be lucky to make half of what we bought Sarr for, and Dennis will be a profit regardless. But I think it's a really good bit of business for what we're going to miss out on for the other two players.
So according to this is really interesting. So on Transfer Marks, which is normally like a really good indication for transfer fees, they don't have the fee down either. They said his market value was around 270,000, but the fee transfer from Pereira in Colombia to Watford is not known. Interesting. I mean, the fact of the matter is, Sam, we've probably made a great profit on that on that deal. Like, I think it's very similar where. Apparently we bought, so according to you on TV, we bought Culshaw for 200,000. I mean, I think that's if that's the case, that's an absolutely incredible deal. And Sam, you're absolutely bang on. Like, bar the goals against Villa and that world against Newcastle, that world against Arsenal, he was one of the shining lights, to be fair, of a pretty poor season when he did play. And you always knew what you were going to get from Culshaw. He had that one bit of stardust and that one bit of amazing skill, but on the whole, he was a grafter. He did what the manager required him to do. And I actually think at times he was better off the bench because he came on against tired legs and he looked so agile, really difficult player to defend against.
Yeah.
But if you've got a player who, I think as soon as he went down, the rumours were coming out that he was going to go back to La Liga. It was obviously clear that his agent had gone to the media and said, look, this guy's going to be moving on, or he wants to move on. We knew Culshaw wanted to move on. And as again, Rob said that he's had a decision on this deal. I think from my perspective, it's great. It's great business from Watford. I genuinely believe that. I think to get €10.5 million, which equates to about £9 million for a player, as you say, Sam, he played half the game. It just makes sense to me, right? I just don't see, from my perspective, I just don't. I think some people wanted more money.
Yeah, definitely.
Could we really ask for that?
No, I don't think so. You have to be realistic. In terms of what we're going to get, we're going to, we're probably going to get, as I say, under our valuations, both Sarr and Dennis as well. So it's the reality of getting relegated. You're not going to get what you want for players, and particularly with the fee that we originally bought Culshaw for. As you say, I think it's a really good bit of business, to be honest with you.
Top man. Right, couple last questions. At this moment in time, where does this Watford, and I asked the three guys before, where does this Watford squad finish in the league? Difficult question, I know. As I said before, I think it would finish at around 8th, personally.
Yeah, I think slightly lower than that. I'd say 10th to 12th.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think we get playoffs. I think we'd be lucky to get playoffs. I think mid-table. I think bang on mid-table.
So, from your perspective, I don't know if I asked this top of the show. It's been a bit of a longer show today, but did you ask what positions we need? Did I ask you that?
No, I don't think you did. I think
I asked one of the callers. So I'll throw it over to you, Sam.
Yeah.
Centre mid for me is a priority.
Yeah.
I think that's an absolute necessity.
Yeah.
Which positions, in your opinion, have to be bought in before the start of next season?
Centre half. If Kiko's going a right wing back, two centre mids, and another striker. So I think that's what 5, 6 players. I think. Okay,
and like on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that we'll get those players? Because I think they're looking. They must be I think Rob would. I think 2 to 3. I got the impression that I got the impression from what I'm reading that it's kind of 2 to 3 players they're looking to bring in before the start of this season.
Yeah. I think as well that something that people sort of, I don't want to say misquote, but when people say that, this plays, Ken Sema's not good enough, Dan Gosling's not good enough, these players aren't good enough for the Premier League, correct. That doesn't mean they're not good enough for the Championship. It's 2 very different leagues. And I think, yes, say we win the league and go up. I agree, those players shouldn't be involved. But I do think 46-game long season, we need, those players on board and ready, waiting in the wings, because they can do a job at this level. How confident am I? Probably a 6. I think we'll see another 3 players come in this window at least.
Oh, sorry, mate. It just lagged a little bit. Yeah, I agree. So before Bayo came in, was it before Bayo came in? I think I've said from the start, 2 strikers. I think we need an energetic midfielder. I think we also need a player who can cover both left and right wing back. So similar to Kiko, really. Just because if we're going to play that formation at one point or another, we're going to be light in one of the departments. So I think a player that can play both sides on wing back. Yeah. So I think bare minimum for me would be probably another striker, a box-to-box energetic midfielder, and a versatile wing back who probably is good enough to start, but can also play on the other flank if needed. Yeah. But let us know in the comment section which players you think we need to be bringing in. It's a bit of a weird period, this period between the start of July and the start of the season, because realistically it's the 2nd of July now. We're looking at about 28 days until the start of the season. 27, 28 days to the start of the season. And there's a bit of a lull. We've got a couple of pre-season games. Obviously, the pre-season schedule being released. And I'm fascinated to see what happens. Really am. And I think, Sam, we will bring in players. I think we'll bring a couple. But it's what level of player? Do you know what I mean? Because we got linked with Nandez from Serie A this week. And if you want to keep track of the transfer rumors, by the way, guys, make sure you follow our Twitter at WD18fans. And you want to get involved. But one of the rumors was Nandez playing in Serie A and his market value is at about 10, 11 million. And you're like,
yeah,
God, that's a big signing. That'd be a great sign for the Prem, let alone the Championship. But then you also weigh up how realistic is that?
Yeah.
And I'm really genuine. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't predict how this window is going to pan out. Honestly, I couldn't.
Yeah, and it's going to be impossible to. This is as well why I wouldn't get too worried about pre-season, like I said at the stop. I don't think, let alone Rob Edwards, I don't think any of us fans have any idea what the starting 11 will be come the first day of next season. It looks like Daniel Bachmann's going to stay around now. It's likely Okoye will be in goal, but I wouldn't rule out Bachmann being in goal. No idea who the back 3 will be. We've got so many options in there. Would it be Kiko or Ngakia at right back? Will Kiko even stay? The centre mids is, it's completely open in there. And strikers, we've only got Bayo at the moment. So no idea what the team will look like next season. And João Pedro as well. So, you know what? As I say, I think it's okay to be concerned, but I think a bit of patience as well wouldn't do anyone any harm.
So Ian says playoffs, I'll be very happy. VJ says 5th. Super Nicholas 7th. We've got 14th.
It wouldn't shock me, Jacob. But it wouldn't shock me. Yeah, as the team is as the squad is at the moment. If we went into the season,
that was really interesting. I'm actually not going into. It's bizarre. It sounds a bit weird, but I'm kind of not going into the season with a lot of expectation.
Yeah.
I don't know. maybe it's just me being a little bit, naive, but I'm kind of like looking at this season going, we've got a new manager, we're trying to give him more power, we're trying to promote young players through. It's a new system, it's a new way we're trying to do things. I'm quite happy to take the pressure off this whole process for the first year in particular, because I think there will be some interesting periods, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, I mean, for me, in terms of not going in with expectation and perhaps not getting overly concerned, or I'm saying be patient, I think last season really took it out of me as well. Personally, you know, towards the end of the season, I really stopped. I don't want to say stop caring, because I'll always care about Watford, but I stopped going in with pre-match nerves or pre-match excitement. I felt like it was going out of, you know,
like a chore.
Out of duty. Yeah, like a chore pretty much. And I think I very much feel like that going into this season as well. Every day feels like, we see something. If not, it's like, all right, whatever. And if we do sign someone, it's happy days. But I think what Rob Edwards, you know, the first thing he has to do is make the fans feel involved again and make everyone feel, you know, in love with Watford again, because I think everyone last season struggled quite a bit. And I think he mentioned it to Sky. I think there's no better way to do that than Sheffield United at home, under the lights, Vicarage Road. Hopefully, you know, we need to make the place bouncing. It's a while away, but yeah, really looking forward to that. And hopefully it's the start of a good season.
That's a perfect way to wrap it up. And just to say, for me, the new kit is an absolute belter. The only thing I think it would look better without the sponsor, personally.
Yeah.
I think it would look like absolutely mint without the sponsor. But
you know what? I really
one of
wish
the best kits, I think, in recent times.
I really wish I was a child again when you could get those the kits without the sponsors on. And it was one second. I've got it just here.
So good.
It's it's this one, the black and white shirt from the season. Without the sponsor, it is just wow.
Do you know what player? I want to hear from the live chat. What player do you think of immediately when you see that shirt? For me, Gabby Angela.
Mine's Minari.
Minari, shout.
Minari, for some reason, because I think of Rotherham away. I think it was, we won 2-0. I think it was Dyer scored for us and went and shushed Beppe Sanino. And what a shirt. What memories. What a season as well. I wouldn't half mind another season like that next season.
Oh my God. Wow. You know what, mate, when you look back on those seasons, sometimes you just take it for granted. Like genuinely so fun. Like that was the time when literally like no care in the world, just like watching Watford rip up the Championship. Abdi Forestieri from Connor. Another one, bit of a weird shout, Keith Andrews.
Wow, Keith Andrews.
The only other one I thought of, like, and it just came to me. Do you remember when Lloyd Dyer at Rotherham away, scored a really good goal, and then like sprinted over to Sanino and just started like slagging him off on the touchline. Do you remember that?
What a day! That was prime Watford in the Championship. Proper Coca-Cola Championship vibes. I know it was the Empower or the Sky Bet, but proper Coca-Cola feel. And this season as well was a proper Coca-Cola Championship feel to it as well.
Mate, absolutely love it. Kit's a beauty. Thank you very much for all the kind comments. Ian, really do appreciate that. And as he says, if you did enjoy, please do leave a like on the video. It massively helps us out. And share the channel to any Wat fans that haven't watched our content before. We really, really do appreciate it. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram at WDA Team Fans. We've got loads of content coming up. Sam's absolutely smashing it on the socials. So keep an eye out for all the posts over the coming weeks. And we'll catch you very, very soon. We'll probably have a video. We're trying to maybe do one video a week at the moment. Maybe like as you can see, we're coming up to an hour now. We like to see maybe like one big video rather than loads of little short ones, because we'll get to the point, particularly in pre-season, where we're probably repeating the stuff that we're talking about. But yeah, thank you so much, guys. We really do appreciate Connor. Thank you. Crazy Cam, amazing. VJ as well. Top man. Really do appreciate it. Have a great week. Have a great rest of your weekend. And we'll see you this time next week for another video. Cheers, guys. I'll be on it.